Only one thing I like more than champagne. And that's your mum. Bro, I'm so savage. Yo, my guy. Hey, my guy. Nobody's even over there. Yeah, we're right to food theory. I mean, you're drinking champagne wrong. How the fuck? Alright, that's time. I was trying to think, how the hell do you know when I drink sometimes, I go like this, and like it goes on my penis. So like, I drink it wrong. I don't know about you guys, but that's why I do it. How the hell do you drink champagne wrong? How do you do that? But there's only one way to oh my god, I can't speak. Only one way to find out, and that's by watching the video. Alright, let's get it. 3, 2, 1, let's...
Lead editor Dan, I'm trying to find that one meme of Leonardo DiCaprio for today's food theory episode.
Sure.
Oh, I was thinking the one where he's holding
champagne,
a drink.
right?
This one? The other one.
This one?
The other one, I guess?
This one?
Wow, there is a surprising
No,
number.
This one?
No.
This one?
No.
This one?
There it is.
Great. What
That's
version?
the one.
This one?
God, those... You do be liking his champagne. And I do be liking him. What the f... Dun 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 dun.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to
Welcome to
Food Theory,
Food
the show
Theory.
whose New Year's resolution is to stop overthinking everything and start overthinking everything. Theorists,
Facts,
it's time
got
for a
big
new year.
theories.
And even if the previous one has left me feeling like the Revenant Leo, it always feels good to strike out into the new one feeling like Gatsby Leo. And for many,
Imagine we just go 2021. Hey, it's New Year's, go. Coronavirus is now mutated. It's now twice the speed of it, and it's twice less effective against vaccines. Run! I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry.
Ringing in the new year means one thing: making out with strangers at the stroke of midnight. But with health concerns at an all-time high, I think everyone's instead gonna be ringing in 2021 by choosing option 2, a champagne toast. Whether it's New Year's, graduation,
Facts.
your wedding, or just your
genuine
Tuesday
New Year's
night,
resolution.
champagne is the de facto drink for
I don't know.
celebration. Unless, of course, you're me, and then it's a crisp Diet Coke. But here's the thing, friends. As you prepare
Coke
to
do
chink
be
your
nice.
glasses at 12
And the drink's
o'clock, be
nice too.
aware you're doing it wrong. No, really, hate to burst
know
your
they will do it
bubbly
as well.
here, but there is a high likelihood
How you
that you
drink-
are drinking your champagne wrong. And don't feel bad, it's not like it's your fault. Humanity's been botching the way they
Louis the
appreciate this
16th.
drink since the era
Who's
of
the first
Louis
one?
the 16th. So what are we getting wrong, and how do we correct for it? Well, bottoms up, theorists. By the time you get to the bottom of this tall, cool glass
I
of
never
knowledge,
drink
you're
any,
gonna
like,
start feeling
soda
a bit
beverage like
woozy.
this.
So hand
I'm too
those
young.
keys over to a designated subscriber before things really get out of hand. Our
What
story
the-
begins with Marie Antoinette's left breast.
Say what?
You heard that right, friends. I'm not out here risking demonetization. Hey, you do you, Louis. That glass became
might be
known
able
as
to skip.
the coupe
I don't know why
glass
my
and
thing keep
became the
opening up social
primary
media for some reason
vessel
on my
of
phone.
drinking champagne at the time. Now, keep in mind that this legend's actually been told the same way with the boobs of a couple of Louis XV's mistresses, Napoleon's wife, and a whole bunch of other women. You get the idea. Lots of people
Bro,
want to claim the
why
coupe
would you
in the
make-
name of their girlfriend's chesticles. In actuality, the origins of the coupe glass can be traced back to England in 1663,
Oh, yeah, all
when it
country.
was invented as a vessel for sparkling wine. Keep in mind, all champagne is sparkling wine, but not all sparkling wine is technically champagne. In order to be considered champagne, the sparkling wine has to come from the Champagne region of northern France. It didn't take long for the coupe glass to catch on with the French royalty. So I mean, if it's good enough for kings, it should be good enough for us to drink champagne out of, right? Well, that depends on how much you appreciate bubbles.
I
The
mean, I like
in
bubbles.
your champagne, and all sparkling wine for that matter, are incredibly delicate. So maintaining those bubbles long enough for you to actually enjoy them is going to be difficult, but also essential in order to have the proper imbibing experience. What do I mean by that?
Immaculate
Well,
taste.
here's a quick overview of how sparkling wine is made. The grapes are picked, pressed, and filtered so that the skin, stems, and seeds are removed. Then the
Okay.
grape juice is mixed with yeast and stored in vats so that the sugars are converted into ethanol, aka alcohol, and
Okay,
carbon
okay, I know this
dioxide.
part.
At
Sounds
this
like
point,
Dutch Stone.
champagne is just normal wine because the CO2 has had a chance to escape out into the air. The base wine is then blended with other wines made of grapes from different vineyards to create the perfect balance of sugar, acidity, and flavor. Now comes the step that actually makes it sparkling wine, the second fermentation process. The nice blended wine is mixed with yeast and sugar, distributed into bottles, and corked. The yeast and sugar react to create CO2 or carbon dioxide bubbles. But this time, the CO2 can't escape. It's trapped in an airtight corked bottle. So with nowhere to go,
Okay.
it instead dissolves into the wine. The concentration of dissolved CO2 creates pressure, but as long as the bottle's closed, exposed, you don't see any of the bubbles. That's because the gas in the wine and the gas in the space under the cork is in equilibrium. When you remove the cork, a bunch of oxygen rushes in and throws off the balance of pressure. So to try and get that balance back, the champagne releases its CO2 through bubble formation and diffusion, which is just a fancy way of saying that the CO2 molecules are going to move from the liquid into the surrounding air. Now, think about this. The more air that the champagne's exposed to, the more CO2 it has to release in order to maintain equilibrium with the atmosphere. So the more air you expose champagne to, the faster it's going to release all those bubbles and go flat, otherwise known as degassing. Which, can we just start a petition right now to change the word fart into degas? I'm sorry, my body had to degas itself. Anyway, a coupe's bowl is shallow and wide, so the wine has a large surface area. That was great for Louis XVI and his subjects who slammed glasses of champagne like frat boys crush beers, but not so great if you're actually trying to enjoy the wine. Without any place for bubbles to form and a lot of room to breathe, most of the CO2 in a coupe glass is going to be released through diffusion. Since it's shallow and wide, the wine can just release big clouds of CO2, and just like that, it's making totally them like flat.
Boobies,
Our
that
taste
makes no
buds
sense.
perceive carbonation as sour, so flat champagne just ends up tasting dull and overly sweet. So about a half century after the coupe glass was invented, the champagne flute hits the scene. Unlike the coupe glass, the flute was designed to help sustain the effervescence of sparkling wine via its long, skinny column, basically the inverse shape of a coupe glass. See, the opening of the flute exposes only a small portion of the champagne's surface area to air, so there's less space to release CO2 through diffusion. That means that the champagne has limited opportunity to degas through its surface and instead has to rely on bubble formation. It's pretty clever, right? Who knew that so much science actually went into these glasses? But it doesn't stop there. If you've ever had a nice wine flute, it's actually holding another secret way down at the bottom of the glass. In order for bubbles to form in a glass, there have to be pre-existing gas cavities in the glass before the wine is poured. These are naturally formed by fibers that stick to the inside of the wall, like tiny pockets that are already there before you pour. Once the wine is poured, the carbon dioxide fills the space inside these fibers. The carbon dioxide concentrates until it becomes large enough to become buoyant and detach from the cavity in the shape of a bubble. Flute makers often etch tiny extra cracks or scratches into the bottom of the bowl to artificially create more uniform gas cavities so that the bubbles peter off in a column through the center of the glass. So am I saying that you're drinking your champagne wrong if you use a coupe? Is the flute the perfect glass to enjoy champagne? Well, it turns out that there are two sides to every coin, and we shouldn't start toasting our victory just yet. Here's one thing that the flute gets wrong. Champagne is best when the bubbles are fine, but that long distance trip up the glass means that all the bubbles will be a lot more substantial than they would be in a coupe glass. So that's a point for Team Coupe. On top of that, we can't just focus on one bubble at a time in an entire champagne glass. One glass of champagne can release 11 million bubbles, and it turns out that these bubbles actually serve a purpose. The bubbles chase after each other and form what are called bubble trains. These trains aren't just for show. They actually swirl the wine and mix it for you in your glass. This swirling action mixes the champagne and creates distinctive aromas in what's known as the champagne's vortex zone. This so-called vortex zone, in addition to sounding like a radical place to hold a laser tag party in middle school, is actually extremely important for the experience of drinking champagne. Combined, the bubble trains and the fizz make sparkling wine very aromatic, and any good wine taster worth their Syrah can tell you that smell is one of the most important aspects of the wine tasting experience. That lovely bouquet kind of goes to waste in the flute. The slim opening prevents your nose from getting a good whiff of the wine, especially egregious when you consider that 75 to 95% of all taste can be attributed to your nose. But the coupe, with its wider vortex zone, ensures that you...
this tastes very nice. Very nice, very nice. Very nice. Elegant flavors.
You'll be able to get a good whiff
I don't want to see this,
you
man.
sip. So then, is the coupe the right glass to drink champagne from? Well, the coupe is so wide that the whole glass doesn't get mixed, and there are dead zones of wine that don't get swirled. And that's not all. The coupe's design makes it ridiculously unstable. A heavy, wide-brimmed bowl balancing on top of a spindly piece of glass is attractive, but not all that practical. When the coupe is full, you pretty much have to hold it from the bowl to prevent it spilling, which means that your body heat is gonna warm the champagne really quickly, throwing off both its flavor and aroma. The flute, on the other hand, never really requires being held by the bowl, preventing your body heat from getting anywhere near the majority of the wine. So where does that leave us? Are a few extra bubbles in a flute worth missing a huge percentage of the actual taste and smell of champagne? Or is the coupe the right way to go? Forcing you to drink it faster so the champagne doesn't heat up or degas or suffer from all the dead zones. Really, it seems like a lose-lose situation here. Neither glass glass seems like the right fit for drinking champagne. So if the flute is too skinny and tall, and the coupe is too short and squat, what are we supposed to drink champagne out of? Who wins the Champagne Olympics? Both glasses have been around since at least the 1700s, and even now, centuries later, we haven't managed to pin down a hands-down winner. Does that mean then that champagne glasses are just a fluctuating fad and society drinks out of whatever it deems cool at the time?
Of course.
I can't bring myself to believe that. This is a finely crafted wine glass we're talking about, not some fad like poodle skirts or pogs. Totally guilty of pogs, by the way. What I'm saying is that there has to be a glass that's objectively better than the others at delivering champagne into our mouths. As you might imagine, this is a hotly debated topic among people in the industry. There's no shortage of valid opinions on both sides of the argument, but based upon the science that we've covered today, the winner has to be the tulip glass. That's right, folks. A new player has entered the game, and it's the solution to all of our bubble trouble.
That's what I'm saying, mix them.
The tulip glass is basically a compromise between the coupe, the flute, and the traditional white wine glass, and it's gaining popularity with a lot of wine experts. For one thing, it forces the alcohol aroma to the outside of the glass to hide behind the slim, but not too slim rings so that you're only smelling the sweet stuff from the center of the bowl.
That's true,
the moderately sized bowl and long stem prevent the champagne from overheating. The champagne is exposed to let air in, but not quite as much as the coupe, so the CO2 won't diffuse as quickly. And finally, on the practical side, it's taller and is only meant to be filled up halfway, so it won't slosh off the sides with every step you take, even when you're on glass 6. And don't get to glass 6. Gatsby isn't toasting to irresponsible drinking choices. Now, certainly not every sommelier and wine expert out there is prepared to leave behind over 3 centuries of coupe and flute history behind, but nonetheless, some are pushing the envelope, striving every day to achieve the perfect glass. Many of those glasses borrow coupe and flute attributes alike. So there you have it, theorists, and even if you don't have a tulip glass at your disposal this New Year's, some wine experts believe that you'll actually have a better experience drinking your champagne from a traditional white wine glass, which resembles the tulip glass in many ways, than you will from a festive flute. But perhaps the sweetest drink of all is knowing that we made it through 2020.
Yep,
So eat, drink, and be merry this New Year, and hey, why not do it with the help of our sponsor for today's episode?
Hell no. I mean, he's not wrong. We did survive this year. I mean, it was very hard. I was thinking of doing some madness, but I didn't. I mean, it's literally almost New Year's. I mean, how long is it? Like, I don't know, like 2 hours, 3 hours. But I made the video quick, guy. So hopefully you guys are happy New Year's. Okay. I mean, you can tell me what your New Year's resolution is. I mean, mine's probably gonna be like stop doing some madness with resolution. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.